All right, great. Welcome everyone to our June webinar featuring information about how to optimize your donation landing page, the content do's and don'ts to maximize donations by 25%. This webinar we're excited to share with you is led by Ashley Kratchmer, our digital marketing coordinator at PGM. So Ashley, take it away.
All righty. Thank you, Katrina, for the introduction. As she said, my name is Ashley Kratchmer, and I'm the digital marketing coordinator at PGM. I've got about 5 years of experience working in the digital marketing sector with a variety of different industries. Those range from e-commerce brands to higher education to small business, and now to nonprofit with Paul Gregory Media. And I primarily work on the technical side with our clients when it comes to things like website builds and content strategy. So I'm really excited for this webinar today. It's going to be really fun. Content strategy is something I just really enjoy talking about. And I'm excited to be able to share some of our do's and don'ts that you can be making with your donation landing page. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to actually get started by introducing ourselves to each other. So if you are tuning in live right now, feel free to drop your name in the comments, let us know where you're tuning in from, and also let us know the name of the organization that you are representing today. We'll take just a couple seconds to let those come in. Okay, we can go ahead and get started now. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this statistic from nonprofitsource.com, which shows us that over 67% of all nonprofits accept online donations worldwide. So they set up on their website a very specific landing page. And we know that we're living in a very digital world, and it's been that way for quite some time now. So I think it's fair to say that most of us tuning in today do have some sort of donation platform or opportunity for people to take advantage of on your website. If you don't, then please feel free to reach out to us at Paul Gregory Media, and we can help you set that up because that is definitely something that I would recommend, if you don't already have set up, that you get loaded onto your website, just so you can take in more donations. So the question before that we've always seen was, why should I bother creating an online donation page? We've seen so many new organizations going into this digital model. And so now that question has kind of morphed. And now the new question is, why should I bother with optimizing my online donation page? So what do we mean by that? We mean that you already have a donation page. That's great. But things are constantly shifting and changing, and it's important to always be touching base on the design, the layout, the content of that page to make sure it's optimized to the best of its ability. And there's quite a few reasons why we recommend doing this. But we have narrowed them down into 3 key areas. So here's why. The first one is that as digital marketing trends evolve, the user's expectations rise. According to Kinesis Inc., there's a percentage of 75% of people that form their opinion about a website based on website aesthetics. So the more optimized your website design overall, the more that users will want to come back to it, which when we're talking about a donation landing page is very, very important. This rolls into our second point, which is a fear of insecure donations. Unfortunately, there are still bad people in this world who have no problem stealing financial information online. And so what we don't want is for donors to feel like their debit or credit card information that they submit for an online donation form is at risk in any way. And sometimes a design can play a part in that feeling of instability. In fact, Magnet for Blogging states that 40% of users will abandon the website if it seems messy and shaggy. So what we don't want to do is see those go hand in hand, where because of maybe an improper design, a design that hasn't been updated for a while, maybe it has a style that's very much 15 years ago, people will notice that. And the statistics shows that that could influence whether or not they trust to give on your landing page. And lastly, it makes it easier for donors to not only donate once, but multiple times and set up a recurring donation. Because once that trust is built that your website is secure, and if the donation process runs smoothly for them based on the layout, that trust from the donor can result in recurring donations. And at the end of the day, all of these reasons point back to the biggest reason that you should be regularly optimizing your donation landing page, which is that it creates a better user experience for online donors. And we all know that a better user experience can lead to more revenue and dollars for your organization. So we've come up with 7 different strategies on how to optimize your donation landing page to its fullest potential. 5 of these will also have our recommended don'ts or what not to do's. And then the last 2 strategies that you'll see are kind of like bonus strategies to include on your page. So let's go ahead and begin. So the first strategy deals with your call to actions. We like to call these CTAs for short. This refers to the specific language used to drive a user to make a conversion. So when talking about a donor on your donation page, the CTA is going to be the declarative statement that drives people to donate to your organization. In regards to the CTA, this is what we recommend. We recommend keeping it very clearly displayed at the top of your page so that it's one of the first things people see. We don't want them scrolling to try and find it. And conversely, what we don't want to see is that it's very hard to find on the page. They have to scroll to find it. We also want to make sure that your call to action is more personal and that it points back to your organization in some way. So the first example that we see here is from an organization called She's the First. And as we can see, the CTA here is at the very top, and it connects straight back to the name of the organization. And it happens to be followed by a quick explanation of how the donation will impact their community, which is underserved girls around the world. Bonus points for them, if you can take a look at the bottom. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but at the bottom, they do have a personalized thank you message, which states, "Thank you for standing up for girls." So we really like how that call to action speaks to their organization. It speaks to their mission. And you can see it from the very beginning to the very end. So before we take a look at this next example, I do want to point out that none of the donation landing pages that we're going to show in this webinar as examples are necessarily bad. They all do the job of supporting their mission and reaching online donors. However, there's always room for optimization opportunities, right? And there is no perfect landing page out there, and we know that. So for example, we see this Make-A-Wish Ireland donation landing page, and it's got a great video. There's a lot of good things going on in this, right? It's got a video, it's got an explanation at the top, it has those storytelling elements, which we will actually get to in our second strategy. But what we do recommend here is that this page's call to action is more personal to make a wish. For example, we can see up in the header, there's a yellow star, and it says, "Hope begins with you." We actually think this would make a really great CTA instead of what they currently have, which is more of a generic statement of just make a donation. So this is a way that you can optimize to make those CTAs a little bit more personal. Okay, so our second strategy deals with storytelling elements, which I had just mentioned before. And by storytelling elements, we mean any sort of content that can help tell the story of your organization's mission. So in this case, we're talking about a video. We're talking about pictures from your organization. It could even be stock images that represent what your organization is about. It could be as simple as putting in a small paragraph of text that discusses a personalized story from the community that you're serving. Now, what we don't recommend is that if you choose to go with that easier route of adding a personalized story, sometimes it's easier to find those pieces of content. If you go that direction, what we don't recommend is that you add too much text, that you add too much of that personal story, that we kind of start going into all the details. The reason being is that people probably won't read it all. You know, they're there for a really specific objective, and it's to make an online donation. And so having a little bit of that story is great. But if we keep going on, then it might cause that content to go below the fold, which basically means that if you're having people scroll on your page just to continue reading more content, we don't necessarily want that. The less scrolling, the better. Okay, so our example that we pulled that we really like is from Turning Point Autism Foundation's donation landing page. If you don't know who they are a local autism foundation from the Chicago suburbs. And we really love this graphic that they have chosen to put on their landing page because we feel that it's engaging and it tells a story. It shows the community that they serve in those images. And it's also not time consuming to view. You can get a sense of how your donation will impact their students based on all of the different elements you see. And we also really like the branded elements and how they point back to the organization. Okay, our next example is Sama. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And again, they've got a really nice donation landing page. It's short and it's sweet and it's to the point, and we love that. But they do have an opportunity for some more storytelling. Maybe they could add in a quick personalized story about what their organization is about. They've got an image, which is great, but maybe they could also, if they had a compilation video, even if it's just of a bunch of different images, spliced and diced and put together in a video, even that can help tell a story. And if it's only 30 seconds to a minute long, that's not too long for someone to stop and take a deeper look into what the organization is about. All righty. So our third point is page design, which is probably the most worked on strategy that you could make when it comes to optimizing your page. Page design, we obviously want to go back to our first couple key takeaways from the beginning, and point out how important it is to make sure that the design is always kept modern and trend-setting. So what we would recommend is having a very clean, engaging landing page design. We don't want it to be cluttered with information. We don't want the actual design elements, the color of the background, to be distracting, to be hard to read. And right now we are seeing more of a clean aesthetic, where we do want to see some color. We want to see fun visual elements to make it engaging, but we don't want to make it hard for people to understand what's going on in the page. And that goes into the don't that we recommend is don't have a design that's too simple necessarily, and alternatively too busy. Okay, so for this example, I really like this example. I think it's really fun and engaging. And this is for the Lonely Whale organization. And we really like this design because of how engaging it is. It's all above the fold, which the whole above the fold, below the fold has come from the idea of newspapers. So back in the day, you always wanted to keep like your most important information above the fold per se, because whenever you folded up a newspaper, the top would be what people see first, and that's how they would sell it. So when I say above the fold, that's what I'm referring to. So it's right at the top. It's really easy to see. The design is very engaging. It speaks to the organization's mission. And even though there's a lot going on in the background, it's not hard for me to read. It's still easy to read the text. It's a little bit darker in the back, which works, but the overall design of how you can see it working with their menu navigation, how it works with the colors used in the actual donation form on the right side, it all is very cohesive. And so we really like this example of a fun, creative way to amp up your page design. So on the flip side, we have seen some donation pages that take you straight to a form, or that are very blank and just have the form on there. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world. The good thing is there is a form on the page, and that's good. But at the end of the day, there is no special touch that speaks to the organization's mission or the community that they support. And we still want to make sure there's a little bit of a visually stimulating aspect to the page. Okay, so our fourth point is mission descriptions. which is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically putting in a quick piece of text that reiterates what your organization's mission is. It's very possible that people that are coming to your donation landing page know who you are and are wanting to donate because of that reason. But if you choose to do any sort of campaign, let's say through social media, where you're pushing donations, let's say it's Giving Tuesday and you're trying to find new donors, people might not have a good sense of who you are. They might not have connected with you as much. So we always recommend making sure that we remind donors about your mission on that donation landing page. Now, what we don't want to do is take up too much room to state this. Usually we have like an About Us page. We have a very dedicated mission value statement page. So we don't want to make the donation landing page this instead. But we do want to make sure we remind people, especially if this is their first time coming to our website. So this is a good example that we like from Happy Jack Cats. And I tried to blow up the specific text that we're looking at, so I hope that we can see that well. But we can see the nice donation form. On the left side, we see how the whole design looks. And then we have a block of text there. And we've got a couple small paragraphs that discuss the mission. And it's restated here, and it's then a specific explanation follows after the mission about how the donation that person can give helps support the organization. Now, this might seem like a lot of text, but we like how it's broken up into really small segments. So even though they're taking a little bit of time to go into all those different areas, it's very easy for me to read. It looks like I'm only reading like a couple sentences at the top. And so it's a lot easier for me to stay engaged with what they're telling me. So on the flip side, this example shows a lot of text, which we might be able to kind of compact a little bit more in general. But there is a lot of an opportunity to maybe swap out some of this text and put the mission and restate that and say how the donation is going to help. So we would definitely recommend in this regard to add, even if it's just a one sentence explaining, even if it's just the mission, putting it on there will definitely help. Okay, so we're going to go into our fifth strategy, which is talking about your donation form layout. So this is a little bit more on the technical side of making sure that the actual donation form that you are using to collect donations is optimized. So what we recommend is not being afraid to be creative in the layout of your donation form. We don't want it to be too crazy. We don't want it to be hard for people to donate at all, but make sure that there's still some branded elements in your form. What we don't recommend is that you add a bunch of unnecessary fields in your form. I know that it can be kind of nice to use that as an opportunity for data collection, for getting more emails or doing whatever it might be. But as soon as you start adding unnecessary fields in your form starts to feel longer and it starts to feel like such a drag to have to fill it out. And we don't want that, right? We want a positive user experience. We want people to say, oh, that was really easy to donate. I'll do that again in the future. So we've got a couple of really nice examples here. The first one is from Nami DuPage. So this is an example of how they use those branded elements. They use a GiveWP plugin for their website. We know because we set it up for them. And we really like how with this specific form that is embedded on the page, how it says a very clear call to action, support DuPage County. It shows exactly what the donations are going to be going towards. There's an branded element with the blue button. It's their blue color. And then we also have a picture that helps depict that. And that's all just on the online form. That's not even including all of the content that surrounds it on the page. We really like the fact that both of these forms, also the Honnold Foundation, again, just looking at how at the top we can kind of see how the form is branded throughout. They've got really simple donation levels right there, which we're going to talk about more later. Everything's just all in one area. It doesn't feel like it's hard for me to go through all the information. We really like the fact that these forms are clean, but they're still intentionally designed based on the organization's branding. And even though you might have to go to a couple pages, there's not too much information that they're asking from. It's all very necessary. And on the flip side, we have another type of form, kind of similar to a previous example, that again is still very clean, does the job, nothing necessarily wrong, but there are quite a few fields, and because there's a lack of a design, it's kind of just a very long form. If they wanted to break it up, we would recommend maybe breaking up into like pages that you could like go to the next page, and so it'll feel like it's less daunting. Okay, so now we're going to go into those bonus strategies that we were talking about. So these are not necessarily something that we recommend you have to have on your page, but if we're talking about optimizing, these are definitely bonuses that we think will definitely help in bringing up more, I guess, for people to have a better understanding about what they're donating to. So the first one we're going to go through is donation levels. So what we would recommend if you have the time to be able to add this on is to include different donation levels to help donors visualize the impact of their donation. So we'll go into a quick example for that. We see Kids Matter, which is another local Chicago-based nonprofit organization. And this is what they've done on their donation page as well. They've got right on the left, the donation form. It's right there. It's ready for you to go ahead and donate if you know exactly what you want to do. But let's say maybe you get some new donors that they don't know much about your organization, or they don't know what they want to provide in terms of a monetary amount. They will set up here, like Kids Matter did, they've set up donation levels with very specific amounts and pictures that show you what those different amounts go to. So they've got a $25 amount helps buy supplies for the stress relief care bags, which are distributed to their schools. They've got the $100 that helps keep our mental health forums free so that anyone can attend. So having these really specific call outs helps, especially new donors, get a sense of what their donation dollars are going to towards your organization. And then our final strategy, our final bonus strategy, is having some recognition on your page. So what we would recommend is including a badge of credibility and recognition of your organization on your page. So for example, we've got two examples here for you. So this is a first example. This is actually shown on the homepage for Bridge Communities, which is another, again, local Chicago-based nonprofit organization. And we really like how on their homepage, they show in a really easy to view way these different badges of credibility. So they've got their Charity Navigator 4-star charity badge. They've got their Candid Platinum Seal of Transparency. They've got their Alfred Axelson Award. And that adds to the credibility of your organization as a whole. We would recommend going a step further and putting those on your actual donation landing page. So if we take a look at the next example too, again, we tried to slice and dice it so we could see it a little bit easier, but within the text, this organization even added their charity number to their page and made it really clear that if anyone had any questions, that they were there to help. This also helps gain the trust of the donor if we're talking about new donors that, again, don't really know too much about your organization. The fact that you're giving them all of this recognition and badges of credibility upfront for them to view will build that trust if they didn't already fully have it before donating. So in conclusion, we just want to go through those key takeaways, those positives that we have discussed. So we're going to go ahead and review those quickly now. We want to display your CTA clearly at the top of your page. Make sure you add elements that tell a story of the people you serve and that donors can support. Making sure we have a very clean, engaging landing page design. Wanting to make sure that we remind donors about our mission by adding a mission statement. Be creative in the layout of your donation form. Include different donation levels to help donors visualize the impact of their donation, and also include badges of credibility and recognition of your organization. So now we're going to go into a brief Q&A. Let's see if we've got any questions in the chat. Okay, let's see. Okay, so while we know that sometimes it takes some time to kind of think of some different questions, so we thought of some questions that we could foresee maybe coming up. So one of the big questions that we always see is, this is all great, but how do I get more traffic to this donation landing page? That's a great question. We would specify going in two different directions. If you wanted to do an organic campaign, which is usually what we recommend first and foremost, something that's not paid. So different ways to send out your donation landing page. We would recommend doing a social media campaign, especially around Giving Tuesday, making sure that you use the link of your donation landing page as the final destination for any of your social media posts. You could even write about your donation landing page in a blog and then link back to your blog. You could share that blog throughout a bunch of different platforms like your social media accounts and emails. Going right back into it, you could do a very specific email campaign, which discusses maybe more in depth some of those personalized stories that we don't have room for on the actual landing page. You could put that in an email and then do a call to action button, sending people straight to your donation landing page. So there's a lot of organic free ways that we can do this. And then we can also recommend doing Google Ads or the Google Ad Grant. If you're a nonprofit organization, you are eligible for the Google Ad Grant, which if you'd like us to talk more with you about that, we can definitely set that up. That is a service that we offer. Or you could always do boosted Facebook posts just to get the page out for everyone to see. And going back to the blog, I do want to just make it known in August, we have a webinar about how to do really quick blogging for beginners. I will be hosting that webinar. So if you're interested in finding out more about how to use blogs for different strategies like this, feel free to tune in then.
Hey, Ashley, Joan has a question. When you show specific images or text for a donation level, how do you avoid confusion that, for example, a $25 gift only goes to that item?
That's a really good question. What you could do is just add a little bit of text before the donation levels and say, you know, this is more of like a recommendation of what your donation dollars could help do. So that specific phrasing at the beginning, it helps people understand that, you know, it's not directly going to have to go to this, but what it could help is this. Or, you know, if they're doing a $75 donation, for example, maybe they didn't do a donation level, maybe they chose $75, but having those different levels, like for Kids Matter, they had a $25 and a $68. Well, $75 could cover two of the 25 and one of the 68. So you could also say, you know, a little bit of text previously going into the donation levels. Maybe it's a small, like a subheader that you could say, interested in how we use donation dollars, see below. And then you can see all the different varying amounts.
Yeah, and to make a distinction on that, and to add a little bit of color, those are suggestions to give people an idea of what their money could, how their money can be benefiting the organization. But there is, in a lot of donation platforms, the ability to restrict funds. So if you want a particular donation to go into a restricted fund, so it's only used for a particular purpose, a lot of donation platforms can set that up. Obviously, if you're going through like a payment provider like PayPal or something like that, you can't do that. You would have to have that agreement in the language in advance, and then you would have to make that a policy. But some donation platforms, especially GiveWP, Blackbaud, and a few others, they'll allow you to specify a restricted fund right on the form, or have the user specify one.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Alrighty, so I think that we are running out of time for Q&As, but we are always here. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And with that, I do want to really quickly mention before we go, you can always reach out to me, Ashley at paulgregorymedia.com, if you have any specific questions about content strategy. And we do want to make sure we make this known to you. We are offering a free donation assessment where we will take a look at your donation page and set up a quick call with you to discuss where some of those opportunities could be for your organization. So I'm going to drop the link into the chat quick for everyone to go ahead and get. This is a link to our leader, Paul Fife. That's his calendar link. So if you guys are interested in taking advantage of that free donation assessment, feel free to check out the link in the chat. I will also be sending that along with a follow-up email from today with a bunch of different resources, the recording of this webinar, the slide deck, and I will go ahead and add that link in as well. Alrighty, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We're a couple minutes over time, so we're going to let you go ahead and get back to the rest of your day. And we hope to see you at our July webinar. Thanks so much.